Welcome to On the Table with Ashley. This is the final episode of our wellness series where we take a deep dive into the true meaning of wellness, cutting through the noise and quick fixes of fleeting health trends to uncover what wellness truly looks like. Each episode, you hear from experts across different fields as they share how they approach health, from physical and mental health to holistic and alternative practices, to give you real lasting ways to care for your mind, body, and spirit. Today, our guest is Dr. Joan Salge Blake. Dr. Joan Salge Blake is a clinical professor and dietetic internship director, as well as an award recipient of the Whitney Powers Excellence in Teaching Award from Boston University. Currently, Joan is a nutrition blogger for U.S. News and World Report's Eat Plus Run column, and the host of Spot On, the hit nutrition, health, and wellness podcast. She has conducted over 2,000 media interviews on numerous nutrition topics and was named by Good Housekeeping magazine as the expert to follow on Twitter for healthy eating. Enjoy.
Dr. Salge Blake, it is such a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm excited about this.
You have so much to offer our listeners. I always love to start just hearing a little bit about where you grew up and what kind of kid you are.
Well, first of all, if I talk long enough, you're going to figure out where I grew up. I mean, that's quite easy. But I'm a Jersey girl. And I grew up as a little tomboy to my brother, who was 5 years older than me. And then I developed or learned shopping. And in New Jersey, basically, I could do 20% off before you could even blink an eye, because I know how to calculate that. So I learned about shopping and fashion and things, so I've had an interest. I'm a great shopper.
From a young age.
You're very young. So, growing up in New Jersey, I got a job with the Pillsbury Company. After being really active in school and things, you go and you're active all the time, and then you get your first desk job and you keep on eating like you were really active. You start to gain a little bit more weight. I wasn't really overweight. I looked Italian. I mean, that's what I am. I look Italian. So, I decided to put myself on a diet to lose some weight, and it was an unhealthy diet. I did lose the weight. But really what it did for me is to open my eyes to how foolish that diet was, a fad diet, but how good you felt after I lost the weight, and I wanted to learn more about that. So I took a course in nutrition, and the rest is history. So I went back to college. I got an undergraduate degree in dietetics. I got a master's degree in nutrition and dietetics, and clinical nutrition, I should say. I did a dietetic internship up in Boston, and then I got my doctorate at Boston University. And my whole life, I just been talking about good nutrition and helping people to really take nutrition, understand that world, and take my expertise and fit it into the lives of my readers. And I did at one time have a private practice of my clients. And, I'm just in love with nutrition. It is just an empowering field, and I truly believe that it could change your health.
So tell us why, I can imagine, but tell us why you love nutrition and what it can do for a human in terms of empowerment and health and all of the different things.
Great question, Ashley. When you look at the top leading causes of death among Americans, heart disease is number 1, certain cancers, number 2, stroke is number 4, and diabetes is number 7. So of the top leading causes of death, heart disease, certain cancers, stroke, and type 2 diabetes, all 4 of these can be fought with a fork and a knife. What you eat can help reduce your risk of these chronic diseases that plague Americans. How empowering that is by what you eat, and understanding the food, how your body works, can really keep you healthy. And of course, as you stay healthy, you stay happier.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to get into a lot more detail. Before we do that, I would love you to take us through nomenclature and why it matters. So we had a preliminary conversation, and it was very eye-opening for me. And I think that it probably will be for a lot of people. So I think, at least in the United States, and I know this is different in different countries, it's pretty easy to use the term nutritionist, but you cannot use the term registered dietitian, nutritionist, or RDN without having specific certifications, and those certifications matter. So can you talk to us a little bit about
Sure.
that?
I'm glad you're bringing this up, Ashley, because basically you could add the word nutritionist after your name. I mean, if you wanted to, because it has absolutely no legal meaning to it. And so when you are a registered dietitian nutritionist, you have to have certain courses in your undergraduate degree. Right now, you have to have a master's degree minimum, and then get trained in a dietetic internship or supervised practice with, in my case, it was a hospital based here in Boston, and really understand the mechanics of your diet and how it can affect your long-term health, or if you come in with a disease problem, how it can help fix it. And then you have to take a national board, an exam, to pass the registered dietitian nutritionist exam. And then you have to have ongoing in life continuing education to keep you up to date. We call them continuing education units, CEUs, because actually nutrition is changing because we're having so much new science to back it up. And so therefore you need to stay on top of your game. And in fact, Ashley, the field of nutrition is so broad that what happens is you sort of specialize. It's just like you're a physician. You have a cardiologist, should you have a heart problem, you have knee problems, you may need an orthopedic surgeon, whatever. An internist may help with the hypertension. So, when you first get out of your internship, you understand a broad sense of how nutrition plays in the health of many chronic diseases. And then you specialize because it's just too broad.
So we talked earlier about how, almost everybody has a physician that they see, right? And it might be a generalist, and then they get to a specialist when they need that. But not everybody has worked with a nutritionist or an RDN.
Right.
And I think we would be better off if we all did have a nutritionist or an RDN in our lives. And I wanted to talk about that. Like, why is that not a social norm in our medical practice, in the way that we're so focused on wellness these days? Why are we not doing that? And why are our generalists not suggesting we do that?
It's $1 million question. The answer to this is physicians get very little nutrition training in medical school. Now, they don't need to have the extensive medical nutrition therapy, as we call it, the RDNs have. But they have to be aware of the role that nutrition plays in preventing diseases and managing chronic diseases. But they didn't get that. Very few got any kind of nutrition education when in medical school. If it didn't get it in medical school, it must not be important. They know now that that's incorrect. They know now that nutrition plays those roles of those leading causes of death of Americans. The unfortunate part is they still in the medical curriculum do not even get somewhat exposure to it. And that they are now talking about that, ironically, about looking at adding more nutrition education in the medical school curriculum. However, Ashley, they're not going to have enough time in their curriculum with all they have to learn about to really get in depth in nutrition. All we want doctors to do is understand the role nutrition plays in the management and the well-being of the patient, and then refer over to a registered dietitian, nutritionist, to get that person to counsel the patient, the client. And the question is, when do you start? Pregnancy. Right. Actually, conception. That's when you're going to really start, because it's actually what you eat and your lifestyle can affect your ability to conceive. You get good nutrition during the pregnancy and then all the way through life. So when you have your children, they're going to have good nutrition all the way through teen years. So as you change and age, so does your nutrition advice, because you have certain needs when you are a teenager or a child. And then as you get older, your needs may change. Ashley, I don't know how old you are, although you look fab. But, let's face it, what you need in your diet at age 30 may not be the same thing at age 50 or 60 or even beyond.
Well, I'm 51 and I'm going through menopause, like very openly. And a big part of the reason I wanted to do this wellness series is that I have found such a change. Like what used to work for me for weight management or energy management doesn't work anymore. And I think so. I do think, I mean, I'm a big believer we have seasons in life in many things, and nutrition is one of them. But I remember when my children were young, the pediatrician would like give me a 1-page sheet for this age group, right? And this is what they should eat. And it's just not enough and it's not customized. So do you think insurance, like not paying for this, is part of it? Because I just don't understand why we don't all go see an RDN.
Well, I got some good news for you. Depending upon your insurance plan and depending upon what your medical issue is, your insurance may cover a session or two or even more with a registered dietitian nutritionist. You should check with your insurance. For example, let's go back to just saying heart disease, #1 killer of Americans. If your cholesterol is elevated, the doctor can suggest that you go see a registered dietitian nutritionist to lower your cholesterol or your blood pressure or manage your blood glucose levels to help reduce your risk of getting prediabetes and, of course, diabetes. So depending upon your insurance, you may be a copay away from having that service covered. Like we know that, for example, we know diabetes is diabetes, poor glucose management, your blood sugars are elevated to the point where it can be damaging to your body. We now have about 27 million Americans that have diabetes. So those 27 million really would benefit with meeting with a registered dietitian nutritionist to help them better manage the blood glucose levels. Strap in, Ashley. 27 million have diabetes. 96 million have prediabetes. So prediabetes is your blood glucose levels are higher than normal, but not enough to really qualify you for the category of diabetes. But that prediabetes stage, we know right now, if you don't do something about your lifestyle, your diet, your exercise, you're likely in 5 years to progress to diabetes. We also know that during this pre-diabetes stage, some of the gunk is going on in your body as if you were already a person with diabetes. So the sooner you get on this and get some counseling, the better it's going to be for your long-term health.
Let's talk for a little bit about what a session with an RDN looks like. I'm sure it varies, like we're all humans and we have different perspectives, but not all, but many of us know what we should be doing for what we should be eating. Eat whole foods, don't eat processed foods, eat around the perimeter of the grocery store. And for, I think, a lot of people, number one, it's easier said than done. And it gets into complex psychological issues for some people, willpower issues, or even like as I age, I'm like, I used to be able to have dessert, but now it really has to be a special occasion, or I'm going to feel it in my body, not just weight wise, but like energy wise. If I can make better choices with food, I just feel better. And that is worth the trade-off to me. But I don't know. I think for a lot of people, that's a really hard equation.
Okay, so let me tell you. The problem, one of the reasons why you should have a registered dietitian nutritionist going through the life cycle with your lifespan, because they're going to know you inside and out. And they are going to help you with a lot of misinformation. For example, you just said, eat the periphery of the grocery store. Well, that's not correct, because the bakery and the wine is on the periphery of the grocery store. So what's going to happen is you're going to come to a registered dietitian nutritionist, and they are going to look at your personal medical history, your family history, because we got to, you can pick your friends, but you can't pick your family. Diabetes, my father had diabetes. That's something that, my kids are at higher risk now. I'm at higher risk for it. Look at your lifestyle, what you're doing, how you can access food. Can you access good food? Not everybody has that luxury. Take the nutrition expertise. I often say to my graduate students at Boston University, our role as registered dietitian nutritionist is to take our nutrition expertise and fit it into the lives of our clients and patients, not the other way around. Okay, this is all about you. This is not about me. Okay, so that's what I want to do, is look at what your needs are, your health needs are, long-term medical history, family history, your current life cycle, lifestyle, and then take my nutrition expertise. Okay, this is what we have to do. What is your goals? What do you want to do? I want to lower my blood cholesterol level. Okay, let me tell you how we can do that.
Do you find that it's most helpful to start with one change? So I was talking with somebody about habits and how you really should only try to change one habit at a time and do it over and over until it's sort of like muscle memory. Is it the same with nutrition?
So you're going to, depending on when you come forward and what's going on in your life, medical history, and what your current eating pattern is, usually, yes, focus on one thing at a time. But see, this is where I can use my nutrition expertise. And I told you in the beginning, I'm a good shopper. So
Yep.
I like to get two for the price of one. So if you're going to say to me, I'm coming here because I want to better manage my blood glucose levels, and I know that if we maybe lose a little bit of weight and change the types of food that you're eating, I can maybe do that. But I can change it in a way where I can ask you to eat foods that I know are going to lower cholesterol levels, but at the same time help you lose that little excess body fat. And so I may get three for the price of one, because then you won't be hungry and you'll be a happier person. I know what's going on physiologically in your body, and I know how we can outsmart your stomach to give you the results that you want. And you might have multiple benefits by making one dietary change.
Mm-hmm. And how long well, I know you're not seeing individual patients right now, but how long would you say somebody should give it, like whatever the advice is, give that a chance to see if it's making a difference or not?
So I would, when I had a private practice, I did mostly weight management, but with diabetes, and people need help with diabetes and lowering blood cholesterol levels and hypertension, lowering your hypertension. So, you're going to come to me initially, we're going to map out what we're going to do, and then we're going to have sessions going on afterwards. Well, depending on what your goals are. Listen, my goal is just to lower my cholesterol, and, my diet isn't that healthy. All right, let me tell you some foods how we can better manage your blood cholesterol level, and then we'll watch this for 3 months and see what happens. Or high blood pressure, I want to bring it down. If you're coming to a registered dietitian and you have multiple things you're working on, and more importantly, if it's a weight management type thing where you may need more sessions, you need more help. Losing weight is not the challenging part. It's keeping the weight off. If we only ate when we were hungry, life would be a little different on the bathroom scale. We eat for so many other reasons. You have to work with the client, the patient, to find out what's going on and how we can help through a healthy diet better manage your weight, lower your blood pressure, lower your cholesterol, and on and on.
You told me about a website where people can go to find an RDN near them. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. It's called eatright.org. eatright.org, and this is the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, which is the largest organization of registered dietitian, nutritionists, and nutrition professionals. And when you get to the website, up in the corner, it's going to say Find an RDN, and you can click on that drop-down box. Will get to your state. In my case, Massachusetts. You click on that, and then ask you the questions. What do you want? I have food allergies. I want to lose weight. I want to lower my cholesterol bump. And they'll link you with dietitians in your area.
Okay. I think that's such a great resource for people. One of the reasons I was so excited to speak with you is that I know you did used to see patients, but right now you're teaching, you have a podcast that we want to hear about, and you write books. And I think in today's day and age, social media, where I feel like it's like fast fads all the time, and buy this supplement. And I think that a lot of, and I'm not sure if there are regulations about this for RDNs, but that they often can get a piece of those supplement purchases of their patients, that it's really, really nice and refreshing to speak to somebody who has no skin in that game and to hear your perspective on where to find an RDN, how you can know if you can trust that RDN with respect to supplements or other things that they might recommend for you, and how you can track your own progress. I mean, I think partially it's the scale, partially it's maybe getting blood work done once or twice a year. I don't know what you recommend to look at your blood glucose and your cholesterol and all of these different markers, and taking some ownership to understand what those things mean yourself instead of just outsourcing that to your physician.
Right. So one of the things that's really important that it takes a village. So oftentimes our dietitians will say, who is your internist, who is your OBGYN, whatever it is, and let me connect with them and, tell them what we're doing. And oftentimes the doctor is like, thank you, please, counsel the person, please, oh my goodness. And so we'll work together. And then maybe I say, Dr. Blank, I'm working with your patient, your client here. We've been working together for 6 months. You might want to check the blood glucose levels. You might want to check the blood cholesterol levels. We're hoping that things have changed and looked around. When it comes to supplements, I do not sell supplements. What I do is help you. Actually, when I started teaching at Boston University in the 1990s, I used to say to my graduate students, we are in the business of prevention. We are going to prevent the heart attack, the stroke, the cancer, the high glucose levels. We're going to change that with diet and lifestyle. I no longer say that, Ashley. I say that we are in the business of prevention and protection of the person. And when I say protection, is protect them from all the hoopla that's out there, all the misinformation, all the selling of supplements that are not needed and potentially even dangerous. I have nothing against supplements. A lot of people need to have supplements, especially as you get older, because you need less calories to maintain your body weight. And how are you going to get all the nutrients in? But what I'm doing is trying to say, okay, based upon your lifestyle and your diet, you need supplement X. And let me tell you the best, cheapest way to get supplement X. And I'm going to send you to the pharmacy, your CVS, your Walmart, I don't care, and tell you which one to buy based on knowing that the product is reliable.
And then could you, as an individual, a consumer, ask your RDN or your physician or whomever you're working with, okay, if I take this supplement, how will I know in 6 months or a year if it's actually making a difference? Because I've taken some supplements where I don't know how to even see it in my blood work.
Right. So what you're going to want to do is basically I'm going to look at you and I'm going to make a personalized plan. It's personalized because what you need and what your sister needs are two different things, okay? And then what we're going to look at is what the supplement's going to do for us. You may want to lower cholesterol levels. Maybe a certain supplement may want to do that. You want to make sure that you're getting enough folic acid in your diet, especially prior to conception. When does that have to come on board and why do you need it? So it really depends upon it. And you may not actually feel anything, but you are making sure your body is meeting all its vitamin and mineral needs. Some can be checked off through blood work, yes, absolutely, and some not. But you want to make sure that you're meeting all your vitamin and mineral needs.
Okay, so you've written several books. Yes. Can you tell us why you wrote them? I think that they're predominantly used in teaching, but I also wanted to ask if like a lay person could benefit from reading them. And so tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so my first book was called Eat Right the Easy Way. And that was a book for the public. And easy, you say, what does that mean? Easy stands for eating as sensibly as you can. And basically it was a book based upon the nutrition guidance that I gave to my clients. And I tried to make it easy. I made it easy for them, and I said, what the heck, I might as well write a book and make it easy for a lot of people. So anyway, then I went to teaching at Boston University, and I took one course and then another course, and before you know it, And I got asked by Pearson, which is a wonderful publishing house that does textbook, to, based on my success in my course, I teach an intro to nutrition course for non-majors. So these are going to be the future you, Ashley. So they're sitting there and they're going to be engineers, they're going to be advertising people, whatever. But they want to take a nutrition course. And it is a very popular course at Boston University. It has 200 students every semester, and there's a wait list to get in there. Pearson contacted me to say, would you like to write a textbook? And I said, I'll write it, but this is how I'm going to write it. I'm writing it that I'm talking to you in the textbook. So it's called, the first one was called Nutrition in You. And actually, you can actually get it on Amazon or whatever. And if you read it, you're going to hear this accent in the book. So it's a very wonderful basic nutrition textbook that you would really enjoy reading. And it's based on science. It's updated all the time because nutrition is a moving target. We're getting more and more research. Then I wrote another one called A Nutrition from Science to You, which just has an elevated more level of science for those who are going to go into medical school, become a registered dietitian, nutritionist, maybe a nurse practitioner, or whatever. So I have these two textbooks going on here, but the first one, Nutrition in You, can be read by the consumer.
And probably should be.
Yes.
Well, that's so fun. And I have one of my sons is going to be a freshman in college next year, so I'm going to suggest doing an Intro to Nutrition course.
You're a good mother.
So the other thing that you did, and I think you started this during COVID, is you started a podcast called Spot On. Tell us about how it started and how often you release episodes and how you get the ideas for episodes.
Okay, this is what happens. So I teach this big course at Boston University, these 200 students that are not nutrition majors. So what I used to do is start every class with, all right, what are you hearing in the media? Yeah, and this was even before social media. It was like, when you hear in the meeting, oh, I'm hearing this, and now it's social media. Let me see, I'm hearing that this celebrity is sucking on a lollipop, and she's saying she's losing 10 pounds a week. And I said, okay, now let's critically think here. Can she really be losing 10 pounds a week, and why would that be nonsense? So after about 3 or 4 months of these questions, okay, what are you hearing? A light bulb went off. And I'm standing in front of 200 students and saying to myself, this is a podcast. Because what I found was the textbook gets updated every 3 years, but what's going currently on in social media or mainstream media is changing all the time. And so I'm answering these questions in real time. So what I did is I launched Spot On, and it's on every major platform. And when you see the logo for it, it's a tomato with a headset around the tomato. And what it does is look at what is happening right now and get, based on science, whether or not we should be thinking about this, what's going on, what are the questions that need to be answered. So I try to be, giving you timely information. For example, these GLP-1 medications for weight loss and weight management. What are they? What do they do? What do you have to have with them for long-term success? Talking about the role of sleep and how diet affects sleep and vice versa. So whatever is something that's new and out there, I try to get the latest research on it, get guests that are medically sound to come on and answer the questions.
Can people suggest topics to you?
Oh, yes, I do that all the time. We have a Spot On Facebook page. In fact, I asked you to do that. Please tell me what you want to hear. What do you want to hear more of? Food allergies, the keto diet. I mean, it just goes on and on. And so I started this, I believe it was 2016. And, of course, during COVID, it just blossomed even more. I have over 200,000 downloads, and I'm still on an academic calendar, so I start in September. Every other week we will launch a podcast episode and then do repeats during the summer, and come back on. So basically, right after Labor Day, we're going to be launching the first episode of season 14 of Spot On.
Can you tell us what it is, or is it a secret?
Yeah. Well, we're I don't know what the launch is right now. I'm taping some just like you are doing right now. And I don't know what we're going to lead with. But I can tell you one of them is going to be about creatine.
Okay. Okay. We are hearing a lot about that. And we have, all gender listeners to our podcast, but I've been hearing a lot about creatine for women. And so I assume if you're going to go into a topic like that, you'll separate out and
right.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, just to tease you a little bit, it's through the lifespan.
Yeah.
Just not for the bros in the gym.
Right. That's right. That's exactly what I've been hearing. But it's so interesting. And I think this is why a podcast like yours is so important, because every week it seems like there's another topic, and either it's somebody who's famous or like an influencer, or even just people like hawking, the latest supplement. And it's very easy to get sucked in. Oh, it's that easy, or I should be doing that too. And I do think there's a limit to how much we can onboard in our lives, whether it's like meditation, nutrition, exercise. It's like there is a limit. So it's extremely helpful to get scientifically based perspectives on these trends, especially.
Right. And that's exactly what you want, because there's so much misinformation and disinformation. And there's a difference between the two when it comes to nutrition. Misinformation is like if you hear on social media, an apple is high in protein. Well, that's misinformation. Disinformation on social media is don't buy apples from ABC Orchard because they're going to give you cancer. That's disinformation. And what that difference is, intent. That second one is to intent for you maliciously to change something or make a behavior change or eat something or not eat something based on disinformation. So there's both of them are rampant, and it's in the all health communities are having this issue. And, what we also know, Ashley, and I actually did a podcast on what Instagram does to your brain and, how you get sucked into Instagram. And I love Instagram. I'm on it. But you can get some real bad information on all social media platforms. And what we know through research, the misinformation, the negative, gets more likes and following than the science-based positive. So what you have to do is understand as a consumer of social media information who you should be listening to. And when you have a question, you have to say, this doesn't sound good to me. Let me see what Dr. Joan Salge Blake says about this on Spot On, because she's not getting paid to do this. She's just giving you information because I'm an educator. And as I told my graduate students, we're in the business of prevention and protection. So it's our role to protect the consumer from nutrition misinformation and disinformation.
I mean, I'm inclined to think that's a worse problem today than, say, 20 years ago, but maybe not, because we had fen-phen, we had all kinds of issues back then too. But I don't think we had like 75 million pre-diabetics 20 years ago.
Right. That's right. So let's go back to diabetes. It used to be called adult onset diabetes, not type 2 diabetes, adult onset. Why? Because you typically got it later in life, in your 50s going forward. Well, they had to change the name of the darn thing because younger people were getting it. And now we never knew about pre-diabetes and the problem with that. So now we have a whole other buttload. So there is more and more science that comes out that we got to get at this sooner. Don't wait until it goes to diabetes. Let's try to get it in the pre-diabetes phase and lower it. We also know that the reporting of information has changed vigorously. So now we're getting influencers, and that was my air quote, that are saying things that have absolutely no nutrition background. They are not a registered dietitian nutrition, and just throwing out this stuff based upon whatever. I have done over 3,000 media interviews, Ashley, and I get requests from the media saying an influencer is saying that you should be drinking lettuce water for blank. Can you comment on that? And I'll say to myself, I can't believe that this major media outlet is going to run with a story about lettuce water. Like, really? And so what happened years ago when we got nutrition information or any kind of news, it was very balanced. You know, you had one person that said something, the doctor, the dietitian rep, and we balanced it out. There's no balancing anymore. It just leads with the, a craziness. And a lot of these social media websites are clickbait, and the more clicks you get, the more you get elevated, your voice gets elevated up, which may not be accurate, but that's the way it rolls. So that's why it is so important for the public to really understand who should I be listening to in the world of nutrition. And if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And let's get down to what's the science behind it.
Well, I'm so excited to listen to a number of the episodes, and I know listeners will be as well. I think also being able to ask you to cover certain topics is a really wonderful part of it. And there's no shortage of topics. No shortage of topics.
Absolutely. I would say to my graduate students, this is called job security, because you are going to be so needed going on with all the wonderful things that nutrition can do to help people.
Yeah.
It's great.
So have you been able to instill the basics, whether the Nutrition in You book or everything you've learned, to your children? Like, can you tell us about how, like, their journey with food and nutrition?
Right. That's very funny that you should say that. If you travel to Europe and you have different wonderful cultures, and they have cultural foods, and these little people, children, eat whatever cultural food they eat. So whatever they brought up, they're going to eat it because that's the cultural food. So my kids in my house grew up with it. They love salad. Well, because they always had salad. They love my turkey meatballs. They only had that. So they love cut up fruit because that's what they had. So, listen, I love chocolate. I love desserts too. But it wasn't, an everyday adventure here. We had healthy foods. 90% of the time were healthy foods. And we had a few extras going in there. And let me tell you, Ashley, at Boston University, if you get a 90, you're in the A category. So you don't have to get, 99 or 100. So 90% of your diet is healthy. What do I care what the 10% occurs? I don't care. It doesn't really matter. So basically, they grew up loving food. First of all, they're Italian. They're loving food, and they're loving the whole meal and the whole what goes on around the meal and everything. So they grew up with really healthy habits, and they love all kinds of food. So that's the end of that,
And are they more aware, do you think, because of the way you brought them up and what you do?
Right. They are more aware, but remember, I'm the mother. And
yeah, I'm experiencing that now.
So what do I know about nutrition? Oh, really? Okay. Okay.
Well, I think pretty soon they'll start asking questions, right? They'll ask for a one-on-one appointment. Right. Let's talk about processed food. Yeah. I feel like we've had processed food in our country forever, but it seems like it's getting worse. And it's just, they make it taste so good. It's so easy. That's what I think we're all sort of fighting against, both consumers and then RDNs as well. So talk to us a little bit about processed food, how it's changed, and if you have any tips for people on how to sort of like say no to it, or maybe it's your 10% rule, like 10% of the time.
Right. So let me tell you, all foods are processed. All foods.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? So if you take an apple, go to the orchard and you pick it. As soon as you wash it, you process it. So those baby carrots?
Mm-hmm.
They don't grow like that. Those are big carrots that were carved down into baby carrots. You process. All foods are processed, but then we get to a category where ultra processed. Now, this is the issue. There is a system called the NOVA system that was done with research. It was research. And they made these categories of food. And in the ultra processed food category, they lumped in there a lot of healthy foods. Okay, let's go with canned beans. Okay, I love canned beans. Canned beans are high in fiber, they're high in potassium. They're wonderful. You can put them in tacos, you can put them in soup. They're fabulous for you. They're inexpensive. So in this category of ultra-processed foods, there's quite healthy foods. So what is coming around now, and the American Heart Association actually came out with an interesting position paper on this to discuss this, that we can't say that all the foods that are in this ultra-processed food category are unhealthy, because they are not. You know, whole wheat bread that you get at the supermarket has been processed. But what, are you going to bake your own bread? I mean, come on. Yeah, seriously. I mean, so we know there's a lot of healthy foods, and we actually know that you can make a diet on foods that are processed and be quite healthy. What we also know is that in the category of ultra-processed foods are sweets and treats. Now, canned beans are healthy, but they're not the same thing as, potato chips, or they're not the same thing as Swedish fish. And I know you should have fish meals twice a week, but Swedish fish does not count for fish meals. All right? So let's, we know that. We know that green beans are different than jelly beans. Okay, you know that. So it's interesting what you said. We are confused about this, but you've always grown up with processed foods. Remember the Betty Crocker cake mixes? I mean,
yeah, I used to use them.
Of course you used to use them. And you know something? That made you a good baker. You can't. You ever make a cake from scratch? It's a disaster. Okay, give me the cake mix. So, but what happened is the frequency. Now, I'm going to tell you a story and talk about my childhood, and that pretty much sums up what the issue is with ultra-processed foods. So my mother, in New Jersey, she worked, and every Thursday she would get paid. So at Thursday she would go food shopping after her work. And so she only went food shopping once a week. Now, when she went food shopping, she bought healthy foods and always used the circular or the flyer to get the prices that were on sale, because remember, I'm in New Jersey. So she would plan the meals based on what was on sale, the circular. And then she would buy Hydrox cookies. And I don't know, you're not from New Jersey.
I had them.
Okay. I've been in therapy all my life. Why she didn't buy Oreos? I always wanted the Oreos. She bought a gallon of Breyer's ice cream, because Breyer's at the time was the little crumb. That was good ice cream, right? And she would buy one of those very large, family-size Hershey chocolate candy bar. Okay. So I grew up with two other siblings. Now, it's every man for himself in that house, okay? So if you didn't get to the ice cream and the cookies, the knockoff Oreos, and the chocolate first, your siblings ate it. So by Saturday morning, forget, it's all gone. Yeah. All right? Every man for himself. But the difference was my mother didn't go food shopping again until the following Thursday. Now, what happens now is you run out on Saturday, you go and replenish it. See, that's not the rules. See, you're not following the rules. The following the rules is you can have some, but you can't replenish it. I grew up with drinking soda, but Christmas, Easter, my birthday parties. That's it. It isn't an everyday drink. So what has happened is these sweets and treats are sweet, and they're treats. That's where they should stay. So it's the frequency of your consuming them that got out of whack here. You can't have soda every day. You can't have cheesecake every day. It was a Sunday thing. You didn't do it, especially based upon the fact that you're not moving. When I was growing up in New Jersey, we first got our first color TV, and there was one TV in the house. If you didn't get there first and get your channel on, all right, you were watching sports or whatever the other people in the house wanted to watch. But what happens is, if you didn't get to the TV to see what you wanted, well, what else are you going to do? So you went out and played. But see, now you've got computers, you got streaming, you got many television sets, that if you don't like what's on, you just go to another room. And it's sedentary. So a lot of things have changed.
And how do you think we got from having the ice cream and the Hydrox and the Hershey bar once a week to some people have it every day. I mean, how did that become the norm, do you think?
Well, a lot of things. I think we started to see that we have to have two incomes in a household to have a household and pay the mortgage. And then we were told you don't commute, you have to drive, so your commute is real long. And then they told us that you're tired at the end of the day and want to get dinner on the table, so you need some help and you need it often. But this is why you should buy products that are ready to eat, and that's fine, but they're ready to eat and they may be not as healthy for you as the more traditional that you grew up eating, and dinner was on the table. Now remember, my mother worked, so it's not that my mother was a stay-at-home mom and had this fabulous, Thanksgiving dinner every night on the table. She worked, but she had money was tight, so you had to plan your meals off that flyer for the week and to stay on budget. So you didn't buy prepared chicken. You bought the bird, baby. You know what I mean? The bird was cheaper per pound, so that was your boy. So what has happened is we've been told that we're really, really busy and you need help in the kitchen. I agree that you need help. I don't have time to soak beans and cook them. I'm going to the canned beans, all right? But you can plan meals that are healthy and affordable, because some of these really easy to use foods are not really inexpensive. You just have lost that ability to pre-plan and get the food on the table in a quick way. I always said with COVID, let's not waste a good pandemic, Ashley. So we learned from the pandemic how to cook again. Remember that? You were calling your grandmother. How do you make that meatloaf, Grandma? How do you do, people cooking. And what we found, this is also good news, is that people obviously were cooking more at home. They couldn't do anything else in COVID. But even during the Great Recession of 2007 and 8, when people were losing their jobs, the quality of the diet went up. Because they weren't eating out as much. They weren't getting the prepared chicken. They were baking it themselves. They were going back to how Grandma lived. And we know when you go back to that, we have research that back up that the quality of your diet will also go up.
Yeah. I think partially there are all these celebrity chefs now too, and a lot of what they make is not that easy to make. So we can get caught up in we have to make this elaborate meal at home, but we don't. We need to kind of go back to these easier recipes.
Yeah, call Grandma. Call Grandma and get those recipes. You talk about all these food shows that are on, and people love to watch other people cook, and then they don't cook. You need about 10 healthy recipes. You eat the same, a couple for chicken, a couple meatloaf, whatever. You need about 10 healthy recipes, and that's all you need, because you're going to eat the same foods over and over again. So find your 10 healthy recipes that you really love, and goodness gracious, there's so many places to get healthy recipes, and stick to it, and plan, cook once, eat twice, double up on that chili and serve it the next day for lunch or another meal, freeze it and pull it out. Use your freezer for more than just ice cubes. I mean, you make a big vat of chili, freeze it, and a week from now, pull it out and you got Thursday night dinner. This is how you were raised growing up, and we just forgot about this pre-planning, and it doesn't take that much time. In fact, it'll save you time than saying, oh gosh, it's Tuesday, what am I going to get? I don't know, I'll have to pick up something on the way home. Waste of money, loss of good healthy foods.
Absolutely. How do you think people can prioritize nutrition without falling into the traps of diet culture? I think about my mom, and I feel like she was always on a diet. And I feel like this, especially for women, I think for men now too, honestly, but when I was growing up, it was more focused on women. And I think weight and nutrition get intrinsically tied, but I'm not sure they should be. I mean, in some regard, yes, but in some regard, no, because you can be very thin and still not be healthy. You could be not eating enough or not getting the right nutrients. Right. So can you talk to us a little bit about that?
So you could be thin and malnourished, and you could be somebody that's struggling with obesity and be malnourished. So what we have to go back to sensible eatings. And I think My Plate is a great visual. And you can, if you Google My Plate or myplate.gov, half of your plate should be vegetables. Quarter of it's going to be some lean protein. A quarter of it's going to be like whole grains and everything. Add some dairy to that and healthy oils. Okay, so this is what happens: is we're not eating enough fruits and vegetables in our diet, and so what we're doing is overeating in the protein section, overeating in the grain sections, and so we're not getting enough nutrients. We're also, because of the lack of fruits and vegetables, especially whole fruits and vegetables, we're not getting full on them. Vegetables are full of fiber and water. They're going to fill you up before they fill you out. All right? Jelly beans are the inverse. They're going to fill you out before they fill you up. Right? Okay, because they're very condensed in sugar, and I could eat a whole bag of jelly beans. Who can't, right? So what we have to do is more strategizing if how often produce gets into our meals. The answer is at all meals. How they should get into our snacks, at all snacks, and get these foods back into our plate. And we're not eating them enough, and we're overeating a lot of other foods on our plate, to which are lacking the nutrition and giving us excess calories because they're filling us out before they fill us up. So again, we got to be sure that more vegetables in our diet, and this is something that I'm going to be doing a spot-on episode on. It's called meal sequencing, of when you eat the foods, how it can affect your health. And spoiler alert, we have great research to suggest that having vegetables, salad, first prior to a meal can really have a major impact on your health.
You've also, and I'm not sure if you're doing this now, but I know that you've done some consulting work with restaurants in the past. Right. One of them was Papa Gino's, focused on creating a workplace wellness program, bringing sort of academic theory to real world application. Can you tell us about a consulting project that you feel like led to tangible health improvements?
Yes. Well, I can tell you one. It was at a major company here in Boston. And what I did was a whole workplace wellness program. So what I did was every month we focus on a different medical nutrition therapy connection with a chronic disease. Let's do it's Heart Month, okay? So I would go in and I would give a lecture on heart health and what you need to do. Then I would go in and work with the chef in the cafeteria to put heart healthy options on the menu. I would highlight the foods in the cafeteria that were heart healthy. I didn't do anything to the foods that were maybe not as healthy, just highlighted the ones that were. And this is back in the 1980s. I started young. And when you look at this, we now have research to back up these environmental changes at the workplace can really roll over to lifestyle changes. We know now with the school lunch program and schools, and to make sure that the children are getting healthy meals and changing, and not only that, having them learn about how to grow food, because we know that when they grow their own food, they get so excited about it and they want to eat it. And so we all know that these environmental changes can help with long-term changes, and we now have the research to back that up. So it's good, and we know now that at work sites they should have healthy options. That vending machine should have some healthy options. And we know now that if you keep your employees healthier, they'll be happier, they'll have less sick time, you'll have more productivity. So there's research to back this all up about your workplace supporting your health habits. And when you think about it, well, you're working now at home, doing a hybrid situation, but in the days of yesteryear, you spend more time at the workplace than you did in your home. So why couldn't that have been a healthy environment compared to your home environment?
I still feel like we have so much work to do. I mean, my younger son just started his junior year today, and the cafeteria at school is, let's just say, not very healthy. Mm-hmm. And I think that is pretty typical among many, many schools in our country still. And even at a place like Google, and, I haven't been there in many, many years, but they had all kinds of options. They had healthy options, not healthy options, grab and go, but there were lots of unhealthy snacks readily available. And I feel like I kind of go back to, and I'm going to think about this going forward, your mom once a week getting the sweets. It was really a treat then, but when it's literally always available and maybe always available for free, it's much harder to say no.
So interesting. When you go on those college tours where your son or your daughter is going to go, they'll show you the fitness center, the classes and the professors and blah, blah, blah. And now what they're showing is the cafeteria, because this is becoming a very popular item. Now, at Boston University, we've had healthy food choices for a very, very long time. And many universities are really specializing on this. Not that they don't have sweets and treats and whatever, just have a balance of other, foods. In other words, I watch this in the cafeteria. They have cut up fruit. Ashley, wouldn't you want an elf to come every day to your house and cut up the fruit for you? And when you eat it, if someone
and vegetables, yes, please.
Of course. So they have, that's what you have. So I see at Boston University, I watch them. They have, everything you want to have, but they have a lot of good healthy foods. And these kids are loading up on cut up fruit because they don't have to do it. And it's really, really good. They're doing something else at many universities, which I think is brilliant. They want to cut down on food waste. So what they're doing is, my Italian grandmother used to say, when, you would heap food on your plate, your eyes are bigger than your stomach. So what they're doing is taking away trays. So you don't come in with a tray to the cafeteria, right? Because what they found out is that kids come in starving. They're ready to eat anything that's not moving. So they load up their tray with all this food, and then they don't eat it, and they have food waste. So what they did is no more trays. So you can go up as many times as you want, but you got to go up, take the plate back to your table, eat it, and you want to go get it. And so what they're doing is reducing food waste, and it's also helping with this, not over-consuming. So it's really a wonderful issue where they're reducing food waste and just saying, eat, but if you're hungry, go back and get more. If you don't want, then stop. And it's really, really working out famously because they're really doing food reduction, food waste. Also, what's happening is they've set up, I know this at Boston University and many others, it's like a restaurant. So in other words, you go in and they'll say, okay, you're having tonight is roasted chicken and broccoli and mashed potatoes, whatever. So the person behind the counter, you say, okay, and you can say, okay, I want, can I have that chicken? Okay, good. Can you? I don't want the potatoes, or I want less potatoes. Can you give me more broccoli? And so what's happening is it's just not this pick up the plate and it's already done. You can customize it. I mean, you can get pizza. Of course you have to have pizza in college. I mean, they go together. But you can get pizza with grilled vegetables on it, pepperoni. Yeah.
Right.
So there are so many more options, healthier options, but you have to go in there, with some education prior to that. Now,
right.
That's where you go back to the school lunch program. So if they were raised as a little person with a healthy meals going to kindergarten, middle school, then, they're kind of in the routine of it. So it's all this education that has to occur early on to become habits for them to take away when they go to college.
I just recently watched, I don't know if you've ever watched Chef's Table, but the cinematography is beautiful. And they just did an episode on Alice Waters, who created the Edible Schoolyard. Yes. And I knew about it because I grew up in California in the Bay Area, but it was really wonderful to see the footage and how it's continuing today and how it's spread. I feel like those are the programs we need more of to create these, these healthy habits, which hopefully you're getting at home too, but you may or may not.
So like in what we're seeing in schools now, that they are growing carrots or whatever, and the kids are loving this. And the kids they get excited, and then they eat it, and they're excited about this. And they go home. But Ashley, when they go home, we want to make sure the carrots are available.
Right.
Right. So everybody's got, it takes a village here. Everybody's got to play their role in reinforcing what the messages are in your grammar school, keep them supported in the home, and they're going out into the real world as an adult. And these college kids have to learn, have habits in place, because really they spend most of their time learning how to do laundry.
Yeah. Okay, so after decades of teaching and writing and broadcasting, can you tell us what lasting impact you hope your students and listeners and readers carry forward?
Yeah. This is what I love, and this is what I love about email. I will get emails from students that are on Wall Street, that are plumbers, that are teachers, and they'll say to me, your course changed my life. And it's not going to get better than that.
So read your book, especially if you're not a major, Nutrition in You. You can get it on Amazon. Listen to Spot On, which you can find anywhere you listen to podcasts. And I would say go to eatright.org and find an RDN to work with you, right?
You got that right. And I'll tell you, start now and just get that advice and think of it as a checkup that you have with your physician. Because, as you age, you have different needs. Let that person who's trained in this help you along that lifespan.
As we explore in my brand, Âme tendre, which is French for to take care of your soul, objects can hold a lot of meaning for us. They can tie us to the past. You've talked a lot about the past, enable us to be more present, and sometimes even take us into the future. Can you share an object from your life, whether you still have it or not, that holds a lot of meaning for you, and tell us why?
So I have jewelry from my mother, and it reminds me of New Jersey. And I'm here in Boston. I love Boston. But I'm a Jersey girl by heart, and I'll always be a Jersey girl by heart, because that's who I am, and I've learned a lot the way I was raised. I was raised blue collar, hardworking. Yeah, that wasn't a lot of money, and I'm glad I was raised that way.
Yeah. Can you share a favorite tradition? I mean, you've told us about the grocery shopping, which is I actually kind of look at that as a tradition, but it could be something that from when you were a child or something that you've done with your children, anything at all.
Thanksgiving. So let me explain how Thanksgiving works here. All right. So the Macy's Day Parade, that has to be on from the get-go, the Macy's Day Parade. And even if you're cooking, that's got to be in the background. All right. And you have to watch the Macy's Day Parade. It is an absolute must. And then you cooking all morning and getting it all together. And then it becomes football, and then it becomes food around the family table, and it's just absolutely fabulous. Why? Because it's not a holiday that I have to buy presents, which is a lot of work. It's just show up, watch the Macy's Day Parade, and eat good, healthy, traditional foods, whatever they are for your Thanksgiving. And it's
what does your Thanksgiving table look like?
A big bird. I brine the bird. Have you ever brined it?
Yeah,
oh
it's delicious.
It's like night and day. And then we do the roasted green beans, and we have the stuffing, and then we have the mashed potatoes, and my homemade cranberry sauce. And it just goes on, and then the desserts and everything.
Do you do a pie?
Yeah, I do a pie, but really what we did growing up was Italian pastries for dessert. Oh, that was, so sometimes we have
like cannoli?
Yes. Oh my gosh, and a whole variety. What do you get in Hackensack Pastry Shop? Oh my God, that's where you got your Italian pastries. There was a line out the door. You had to start like on Wednesday to get the pastries.
Are you in a phase in your life where you enjoy entertaining in your home? Why or why not?
I do. I enjoyed entertainment always in my home. I'm in Boston, and I remember when the realtor that helped us buy the house, he said, "You see the screened-in porch? This is going to be what you'll be thankful for that." I'm like, yeah. She's right. Because having like a grilled food and having people on a screened-in porch and just very relaxed is a must. You have to have a screened-in porch because the mosquito is the state bird here in Massachusetts. So you have to have a screened-in porch. But way back, just being casual is really good. And then I'd like to have like a dinner party or whatever. But just hanging out on the porch is great.
So, pro tip, keep it casual.
Keep it casual, right.
Okay. I love getting tips from people. We've talked about your books. I'm going to talk about Nutrition in You again and your podcast, Spot On. But do you have one or two other top resources? They don't have to do with nutrition. They could, but just I love to collect favorite books from people or podcasts to share.
Well, a great resource is the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics has wonderful nutrition information on it. Another resource that I love is called Old Ways, Oldways. And this was really the start of the Mediterranean diet. They really popularized that based on science and now have expanded this to cultural, which is great. It's really beautiful. There are so many, my nutrition textbook, Nutrition in You, is, I always say you got to have at least one basic nutrition book to go back to. So having something along that lines is really good. Make sure that whatever you read is written by a registered dietitian, nutritionist, not by even other health professionals, because they didn't. They have to have had nutrition background. So just because they have other wonderful initials after their name and they're maybe in the medical field, make sure that a registered dietitian nutritionist is contributing to this book to keep it accurate than that. And I love podcasts. So there's many registered dietitian nutritionists that have podcasts. So find those that you like and listen to them, because again, as I said in the beginning, it's going to be fresh information that you need to be knowing about.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, last question. What do you do for yourself? Do you have a practice, a focus, a habit, or daily routine that you adhere to that contributes to your success and or your well-being?
Yes. I listen to audiobooks. And I can put audiobooks on, and I could put my sneakers on, and I could walk to China. I could just keep walking. So I don't sit and read. I listen. Now, why do I do that? Well, I love getting new information, and I really do nonfiction. I don't do fiction. I want to learn new things and whatever. But I'm a multitasker, so I want to walk and learn. I don't want to sit and learn. So I get audiobooks, and I download them. And I basically oftentimes have read most of the book, air quote, most of the books on the New York Times bestseller list, but I didn't really read them. I listened to them. So it allows you to have movement, stay fresh, stay up to date, follow your love, your interest. And if you like fiction, go get it in fiction. I don't care what it is. But it allows that movement and keep you moving, and you're joyful because you're doing something you want to listen to.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. It's been such a pleasure talking with you. I've learned so much. I have new resources. I'm going to go get Nutrition in You right now. Maybe get one to give to my son to take to college. We'll see.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Maybe you can get BOGO, where to buy one, get one free. Who knows?
Shopping. Thank you for spending the time with us.
And thank you for allowing me to spend some time with you.
Thanks for listening to an episode of On the Table with Ashley. Subscribing to, rating, and reviewing our show helps us to continue to make quality episodes, so please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. On the Table with Ashley is presented by Amatond, an elevated, everyday, luxury home and tableware brand with products designed to cultivate connection. You can learn more about Amatond at amatendre.com or on Instagram at Amatond. By subscribing to our newsletter on the Amatond website, you'll receive updates on new episodes as well as promotions relating to Amatond and Amatond's products. Send us an email at reachoutanytime@amatond.com if you have ideas for guests or series ideas you'd like to pass along.